Yes, this video will hopefully advertise a recent posting on my website, www.ecofascism.com. Climate change isn't an issue about which European politicians can simply agree to disagree about and then move on. No, accepting the catastrophic, anthropogenic, global warming hypothesis and implementing the correspondingly economically catastrophic energy policies are prerequisites to maintaining friendly relations with the EU. Europe's climate industrial complex is far too big to fail. As President Donald Trump marches the English-speaking world out of Europe's climate crusade, transatlantic relations will necessarily plummet. At the same time, and to the mortification of the Europeans, U.S.-Russian relations will thaw. After all, it wasn't Moscow that led a 30-year economic warfare campaign against America's energy infrastructure via the ruse of global warming. No, that was our old allies in Berlin. Insights into European deep state machinations can be gleaned from Timothy Snyder's Black Earth, The Holocaust as History and Warning, published in 2015 by the German media conglomerate Bertelsmann. A word about Bertelsmann. In addition to owning extensive television, magazine, music, and e-business operations, Bertelsmann is by far the world's largest publisher of books. The company puts out about 15,000 new titles per year under about 250 seemingly independent labels. Bertelsmann has been a family affair since 1835. The Mon family members and Mon-controlled foundations own 100% of Bertelsmann's voting shares. Christoph Mon is the chairman of the board. His mother is vice chair. He also has a sister who is a director. Joining them on Bertelsmann's board of directors are high officials from Volkswagen, Nestle, E.ON, BMW, Henkel, and Daimler. Bertelsmann was the main publisher of Nazi propaganda during the Third Reich. More recently, the Mon family have been enmeshed with the ultra-environmentalist Club of Rome. Over the past 40 years, Bertelsmann has loosed an avalanche of literally hundreds of thousands of environmentalist magazines, news articles, and books. This book, Black Earth, was a collective endeavor. 14 archivists and librarians dug up the primary data. 30 academics and publishing executives reviewed drafts and submitted recommendations. The book was finally released simultaneously in every European language in 2015. It, with that sort of backing, immediately became a bestseller in 4 major markets and won numerous awards. Professor Timothy Snyder is American-born, but he's better known in Europe than the USA. Much of his success derives from his long involvement with the Vienna-based Institute for Human Sciences, which employs 40 academics with funding from the Austrian and German governments. Their mission is to overcome obstacles to Central and Eastern European integration through rewriting history with thematic daring. While not an outright work of Holocaust denial, Black Earth, this book, forcefully deploys the controversial genres of Holocaust obfuscation, double genocide theory, and Holocaust inversion. More importantly for our purposes, Black Earth is also a meticulously crafted environmentalist propaganda tract, concluding with a long, preachy chapter on the subject of global warming. This is a book about the Holocaust, yet it devotes more page space to climate change than to Auschwitz. Snyder's personal opinions on climate change place him amongst the strident fringe of the global warming faithful. He literally argues that future holocausts can be prevented with carbon taxes. In 35 separate passages, Black Earth affirms the Nazi environmentalist connection. Professor Snyder claims that Adolf Hitler's core ideology consisted of A, a profound commitment to ecology, B, a hostility to free market capitalism, C, a belief in the overpopulation crisis, D, a disdain for modern agricultural technology, E, a deification of nature, and F, an overriding phobia that industrial activity was destroying Earth's ecosystem. In other words, Adolf Hitler was, according to Snyder and his team, by today's standards, a typical environmentalist. As an aside here, Snyder made an astonishing admission in an interview with The Atlantic magazine in 2015. He said that in 2010, he had only a vague intuition that there might be a connection between ecology and Hitler's mindset. This led him to a rereading of Hitler's main works, with Snyder concluding, and I'm quoting from the Atlantic article, in fact, that Hitler's quite explicitly an ecological thinker, and that the planetary level is the most important level in Hitler's mind. Why that is astonishing is because Snyder obtained his PhD in history from Oxford in 1997. He has taught at Yale and Harvard. His field of expertise is Central European politics around before and during the World War II era. Yet somehow, as late as 2010, he possessed only a vague intuition that there might be a connection between ecology and Nazism. By 2010, there had been over a dozen books published, by the likes of Yale University Press and Cambridge University Press, describing in expansive and minute detail the ecological orientation of the Third Reich. None of the authors and the scholars who have dug up that material have any of their works appearing in Black Earth's bibliography. There's an 800-book academic paper bibliography here. He does not mention any of the scholars who worked on the Nazi green file. That in part is evidence of the suppression of evidence by Snyder and his team, and it's also evidence that Snyder might well just be an intellectual poseur, someone who's a celebrity pundit who's simply signing off on work largely done by others. It's just inexcusable that he would not have any knowledge of the green Nazi link by 2010. However, he's a believer now. However, Snyder and his team twist this information in a very clumsy and unsuccessful way to try to make it as though Hitler's allegedly idiosyncratic ecologism was unique to Hitler, and this is done in a way to exonerate a lot of the other fascist dictatorships that existed in Europe contemporaneous to Hitler. Those other fascist dictatorships are given remarkably soft treatment in this book. This book traffics in anti-Americanism and anti-capitalism, both staples of European fascism. This book overflows with a militant statism seldom heard in the English-speaking world. Of course, to fascism, the state-building project is a manifestation of the divine. Black Earth is a battle cry for pan-German oligarchs and their ultranationalist Polish, Ukrainian, and Baltic clients. Snyder wrote this book while simultaneously writing reams of articles for the mainstream media, defending the 2014 overthrow of Ukraine's lawfully elected government. In those articles, and in this book, Black Earth, the Russians, particularly Vladimir Putin, are demonized. Most critically, in all of that literature, Russia and North American fossil fuel reserves are deemed an existential threat to the planet. Tim Snyder is a Benedict Arnold. He's an Ezra Pound. He's a Tokyo Rose. His portrait shall forever hang in that shameful gallery of treasonous Americans whose ideology, vanity, and greed drove them into the arms of foreign reactionaries determined to scuttle the American project. And you can find that information more laid out in greater detail on ecofascism.com.